Yes, everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be having a look how Manchester United beat Manchester City this weekend at Old Trafford. Let's have a look at how it's going for City this season. They are currently lying in third place in the league. They are 3 points above us. Chance to draw level with them on points, obviously, if we beat them. But it's a hell of an ask for us to do that this weekend. 1-3, drawn 1 loss in their last 5 games. That loss came against Crystal Palace last weekend, where they were particularly poor. They're coming off a 4-1 comfortable win against Club Brugge in the Champions League, where they are top of that division. And they've been a little indifferent this season. It's not as imperious or as imposing as we've seen them in the past. Having what you'd call possibly an off season for them. And they haven't actually beaten us in the league since April 24th, 2019. Pep's well known for possession football, coming through that Michels and Cruyff sort of lineage through Barcelona, and he's a massive proponent of the tick-attacker sort of style that stemmed from what he developed at Barcelona, and he's never really strayed from that 4-3-3 formation. And one of the things that stands out in Pep's formation is his tendency to want to try and really play 6 midfielders. It seems nearly impossible not to mention anything that City do tactically under Guardiola without mentioning his use of fullbacks and his inverted fullbacks. And for those unfamiliar, these are the players that start in the fullback position during the defensive phase of the game, but then drift in field to act like central midfielders during the attacking and build-up phases of the game. That's why Delph was so adept at doing so. People are like, you can't play a midfielder at left back. You can't, no, but you can play a midfielder in someone who lines up as a left back in defence, but then essentially acts as a midfielder in possession. And the primary reason that they do this is to create overloads in the central areas. I also think it sort of anaesthetises you against extremely quick counters, which they're still prone to, but it helps a little bit. It helps especially against other teams that want to play through the middle. And this is where I think Guardiola has a bit of a blind spot, not really recognising that there's other ways to play football, only thinking of the very possession-based teams. If he comes up against another team that plays exactly like he does, those fullbacks that are coming in work really well. And actually, I think the lower down in football that you go, the more useful those inverted fullbacks are. Most fullbacks, let's say League One, League Two kind of level, don't have the fitness to be able to do the doggies, the up and down that a manager's going to want. And I think it's a much more tactically and systematically sort of structured sort of thing if you have your fullbacks going from here and moving centrally alongside the number 6 in midfield to create a midfield 3, and then those 2 number 8s move into the attack phase and become attackers. I think that's a very innovative thing that Pep Guardiola's had a massive part in sort of bringing to prominence, and I actually think it's something that could be useful at the lower end. We don't use that. If anything, we look a bit more like Liverpool, Paddock FC when we play. I have my fullbacks getting all the way forward, and I leave a back 2 just sort of chilling as everyone else tries to attack. But it helps them circulate possession. It helps them switch play. It helps them beat those opposition presses. And you see them do this pretty often throughout the game. Cancelo being probably a more natural fit for this, and Kyle Walker, although he's still very capable in doing so. And it's something that they've used quite effectively. Maybe less so this season because I think they've gone a little bit too hard with it. And that over proponents of midfielders is because Pep Guardiola wants to create an overload in certain areas of the pitch. If you put 5 in midfield, he's going to want to stick 6 in midfield. That's what he's all about. So I think you can make Pep a reactive manager by doing some things that he might not like or that he might not necessarily want you to do. But their goal is to try and create goals through cutbacks, through intricate little triangles to the sides of the boxes, get people towards the byline and then chop it back towards a D or towards a penalty spot, or they cross from that sort of half space, De Bruyne space, where they're looking for people, possibly to the other side of the goal. Those constant switches are where City find the gaps and City find their openings, and they're quite good at picking their time, being able to play in behind a defence which is scrambling to get back to that front post and cover, and they find the gaps in the chaos a little bit there. And it's very well trained and it's very well sort of drilled. And that is something that you have to give Guardiola credit for. His players do know what he wants them to do on the pitch, and you see that time and time again. I think he's a bit of a tweaker with it, the way he's so demanding for it has to be this way only. I think players need a little bit more freedom to play what's in front of them. But obviously, Guardiola's success tells you that he's pretty good at what he does. You have to be concentrated at all times playing against City. If you switch off, they'll overload you, they'll rip you to pieces, and then you've absolutely done it. When they break the lines, they do it with absolute precision. And their use lately of a false nine helps them overload those central positions, and also because you're not up against a traditional sort of striker, they're going to occupy weird spaces. They're going to occupy, they're going to stand in front and behind of your midfielder and confuse them, and centre halves won't know whether to engage or to disengage, and that's the confusion that City really take advantage of. You've got to be wary of it. Team selection-wise, Laporte is on a one-match ban against United on Saturday after the red card that he got against Crystal Palace. So I think John Stones will be coming in. Sterling's been out of favour all season and probably unlikely to start, where, remarkably, never scored against United in his 23 career appearances. And when he plays against Wan-Bissaka, looks like a lost little boy. Ferran Torres is unavailable, so I think it'll be De Bruyne or Foden that are likely to pass as false nine or the striker in the system. And I think it's probably going to be Ederson, Walker, Stones, Diaz, Cancelo, Rodri, De Bruyne, Silva, Jesus, Foden, and Grealish in his first Manchester derby. Star man for me in this one, I think it's Phil Foden. 5 goals, 4 assists, 12 games this season. Been a big standout for Manchester City in a team full of stars. And he's probably the best player for them so far this season, outperforming a £100 million signing. One of the underrated things about Phil Foden, and one of the real quality things about Phil Foden, is his positional versatility. He's very effective as a 10. He can be effective as an inverted winger, an 8, and we're seeing a bit lately as a bit of a false 9. He's got a good turn of speed, very good dribbling, incredible ball control, and when he starts sort of snaking through the middle, he's very elusive. Raj challenges really well, and he's got a hell of a left foot. So you got to watch him. Stats-wise, no shocks here. Manchester City lead the league in pretty much all passing metrics. 64.2% possession and 86.9% pass completion. They scored 20 goals this season, which is a pretty decent return. It's the 3rd highest in the league, but none of the standards that they've set in recent years are really being hit at all, and I think that could be on the back of missing an out-and-out striker. They've underperformed their XG this season too, which sort of lines up with that a little bit. And they lead the league in passes into the final third, passes into the area, overall touches in opposition area, and they are a fine-tuned machine when it comes to creating and controlling the ball in and around the opposition box. Cancelo is the surprising catalyst for Manchester City, and a danger man in leading the league in passes into the final third. So when you think it comes back to Cancelo, you think you're safe. Not necessarily. He's got a bit of a defence splitting ball into him. He will find people, and he's only behind Bruno Fernandes when it comes to passes into the final third, which is bananas. And also leads the league in interceptions. He's absolutely a player. He's also coming off a hat-trick of assists against Brugge in the middle of the week. Surprisingly, this season, for a team that doesn't have an out-and-out centre forward, they lead the league in crosses with 167, nearly 20 more crosses than even Burnley, which is a strange thing and not something that you necessarily associate with Pep or with Manchester City. But they have been solid this season as well, defensively, conceding only 6 goals. Last week was one of the rare occasions where if they concede, it's been more than 1 in a game. And nobody has more progressive carries into the box than City. And there's no surprises with who. That's Jack Grealish. How do United win this then? I think we have to go with a 3-5-2. I think it offers us the most protection and gives us a couple of options as an outlet on the attack as well. So I'll be going with Big Dave in net. A back three where, honestly, this wasn't the easy choice, to be honest. I did and ah with this, and I debated, could I play a back three of Lindelof, Bailly and Shaw? And ultimately I thought there's just not the leadership in that back line there. Bailly, for how he plays, is a leader, but I don't think he communicates. Lindelof is very passive. Shaw's very passive. And even though I think Maguire deserves dropping, I think he does actually, he is a bit more vocal than the rest. And it's marginal, but I could see why he would want to play him, especially in the absence of Varane. So I went with Maguire and I went with Shaw, left wing back, instead of bringing Telles in, which might be a bit more of an attacking threat. Wan-Bissaka on the right-hand side is still going to give us a bit of an outlet, but ultimately nowhere near as much as you're going to get on the left. It is McFred in midfield. You might as well just get used to that's going to be the case now and not spit your dummy out when it happens. Saturday morning, Bruno in the 10, but I'd like to see him sort of play as a number 8 like he did against Spurs a bit more, and then Ronaldo and Marcus Rashford. You can definitely make a case for Cavani playing in this, and maybe Cavani, Rashford would be a better option, or even a better option might be playing all three of them if you think you can be defensively solid enough. I just don't know where those transitional passes come from without having someone on the pitch who can play those. If United went for, say, Fred, Pogba and Bruno, I think United could have a real chance to get on the front foot against Manchester City and really look to punish them in behind. But I think he'll bottle it and go with the McFred partnership with Bruno. I think Marcus and Ronaldo didn't look great against Atalanta, but I think they'll find so much more room against Manchester City. In 8 contests between Oli and Guardiola, Oli has won 4 and drawn 1, which is not bad going, really. It seems to be the one fixture that tactically, managerially, brings out the best of him. It's a game where United can't afford to be anywhere near as vulnerable as we were against Liverpool. That was awful. And I think if it's another performance like that, Oli probably goes on the back of it. But a poor performance against Atalanta despite the result, I think this is another game where the result will carry more than the performance, but it'd be nice to have a good result and a good performance in this one. Our only way of getting the points is real simple. You know the blueprint. They're not going to change. We shouldn't change. Hit them on the counter. Be sturdy and rigid and attack them on the counter because they're very vulnerable to what we're going to hit them with. And, you know, 3 at the back may or may not work against these. We've seen it effective against Manchester City and we've seen it be carved to pieces. We could find ourselves penned in with no outlet, but I just think it gives us a bit more structural rigidity, which, I mean, against Liverpool, there was just none of. So even just for that sake, I would change it and go with a 3-5-2. It gives you the options to start Ronaldo and Cavani, although I do think it'll probably be Rashford because of his pace, especially if you're looking to counter. And I think preventing the back 4, preventing it being a back 4 and maybe having one less attacking player could make it a bit easier, but we're not fully utilising those attacking players anyway, certainly against Manchester City. So I think just having a couple of options would be the one for us. When we get the opportunities to break, we've got to do so with serious amount of ruthlessness. City haven't really allowed a great deal of opportunities against them this season, and that doesn't really bode well for United, but I do think that they are vulnerable to the certain way that United counter. If we go over back 4 with a midfield pivot that we've been playing, we'll just get completely out. We'll be completely overrun because they will have so many more numbers. And one thing I like about the 5 at the back for United, it allows the fullback to track someone. So what Manchester City love to do, when they're attacking, they have their wingers go extremely wide and then they'll put their number 8s up, as we was talking earlier with the inverted fullbacks. The 8s will start to operate in a bit of free space. And with it being a false 9, you could end up with 3 players sort of operating in free spaces between the lines. You play a 3-5-2, you're going to put a bit more of a low block in. You started to deny the space in between the lines and they space out wide. That's where those 8s look to try and pick up the ball and will look to try and 2v1 that fullback. When you play a back 5, you don't get that because the fullback's allowed to leave that line and maintain a back 4 behind him still. And he's able to go and close the ball down or close the man down in that sort of area. And that, for me, is where Manchester United can really start to disrupt Manchester City's build-up play because they look to go wide, attack into those areas before they start to move it forward. If you can stop the attacks there, there's a lot of space already into that channel. And if you put it to the right, put it to the left for Rashford and Ronaldo to go and chase, and for even Bruno to go and chase, United will find a lot of luck doing that. And I think it's just then about being clinical. I don't think it needs to be a perfect performance from United, but it has to be a disciplined one, and you have to take the chances that you inevitably are going to get, but you've got to really take them. Anyway, let me know your score predictions in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.